الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين، وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد على آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله وأمينه على وحيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We come on this blessed day of Friday to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all that He has given us. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تَحْصُوهَا وَأَسْبَغَ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعَمَهُ ظَاهِرَةً وَبَاطِنَةً. And to renew our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do the best we can, to do everything we can to fulfill His purpose and seek His Ridwan, His good pleasure. Dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, we started talking about Quran, how much we need it in our lives, how it is a necessity. It should become a necessity like food, something that you cannot do without. You cannot let a day pass by without eating or drinking. That should be your relationship with the Quran. And after Ramadan, we need it even more. Unlike what some people think, that Ramadan is over, so we don't need as much Quran. No, actually, you need more Quran after Ramadan because you lose that push from Ramadan. So every Muslim, was our starting point, every Muslim should and can make the effort to study the Quran. Again, every Muslim should, must, and can make the effort to study the Quran. And study, not just reading. Reading Quran is great, listening to the Quran is good, memorizing Quran is great, but studying Quran is what is needed. Even if you don't do any of those, but you study the Quran, that's what is meant. So, why studying the Quran is important? Because the Quran consists of text that you read and the message that you extract. What is it that Allah wants to tell you? To extract that message, you need an effort. Reading does not need an effort. You can read without much effort. But to get the message needs that intellectual effort. So that's why studying the Quran is needed, not just reading it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِ كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ عَلَيْكَ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِ. We revealed this book so that people can reflect and contemplate and can understand it. And you cannot understand something if you don't study it, not just read it. And then we mentioned that if we accept all of this, hopefully we all accept it, to make the most out of the Quran, you need to be aware of the styles of the Quran. Otherwise, you will miss the point. So being aware of the styles of the Quran, what style the Quran uses, that will help you making the most out of the Quran. Especially that most of the Quran is indirect style. So it is easy to miss it. If you don't pay attention, you can miss it. You will be reading, but you miss the point. Why? Because the style is not direct. It's not do, don't do. That's easy. That's simple to understand. Do and don't do is only a small part in the Quran. Most of it is do and don't do, but in indirect way. That's why being aware of the styles of the Quran will help you making the most out of it. We mentioned the different styles of the Quran. There is the direct style. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ. It's a direct order, clear. Stories. Lessons need to be extracted from stories. About 1/3 of the Quran is qasas, stories. 3, qiyamah, مشاهد القيامة, scenes from the day of judgment. There is a message in them. Why? Because Quran is going to tell you there are people who are happy because of what they have done. So Quran is telling you need to do that indirectly. And there are people who are not happy, who are sad and in hellfire because of what they have been doing or what they missed. So the message for you is to avoid what they have been doing and to do what they did not do. قال ما سلككم في سقر قالوا لم نكن من المصلين ولم نكن نطعم المسكين. Why you ended up in a fire? We were not praying and we were not helping the poor and the needy. 4, style description. Quran will describe some people with whom Allah is pleased. It's not in the day of judgment, it's here. قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون, etc. So Allah is telling us about some people, He's pleased with them. Why? Because of what they are doing. So the message for you is you need to be doing this if you want Allah to be pleased with you. And in other parts of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell us about people He does not like. لعنهم الله وعليهم غضب, etc. These are people Allah is not pleased with them. Why? Because of what they were doing. So the message for you is check yourself against these things and avoid them. And then the last style of the Quran is the universe, telling you about the creation of the universe so that you can reflect and that strengthen your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I invite all of us to learn about at least 2 things. One is the universe, the astronomy. I mean, you don't need to become physicist or astronomy expert, but read the basics about the sizes of the universe and how between the moon and the sun and the earth, like millions and millions of years and millions and millions of miles, hundreds of millions of miles, etc. And how the earth in this universe, you can see even video and documentary and pictures in this universe, and how this galaxy of ours is in the whole universe is also a small piece. So that tells you the azama of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Quran recommends that we reflect, praises those who الذين يتفكرون الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. They reflect and ponder and contemplate on the creation of Allah in the universe, and that makes them stronger believers. But ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. So the purpose of this, purpose of the Quran, remember, is strengthen your iman, strengthen your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better, cleanse your heart, and cure it. Quran describes itself by saying shifa'un lima fi sudur, cures the heart, cures it spiritually, not physically, cures spiritually, cure for the heart, and then cleanses our hearts, clear our mind. Kitabun mubin, mubin makes things clear. Shaitan always tries to confuse you and to compromise your clarity of vision, and Quran comes and remove that. It's like when you clean your glasses, or when you're driving, that you lose sight and then it becomes clear. Quran does that. Quran clears the way as it describes itself, Kitabun Mubin. A lot of confusion in life, a lot of distraction. So when we read Quran, we are reminded we are by nature people, we are creation who tends to forget, nisyan. So we tend to forget, and shaitan, and there are distractions, and there are temptations, and there are a lot of stress, a lot of confusion, and Quran comes and clear that. Clear the way for you, clear your mind, clear your vision, and cleanse your heart. Prevents your iman from becoming dry and dull. Keeps your iman always fresh and vibrant. Then we started talking about the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. Story is it can be said in 1 minute. It's a short story, but it is full of lessons. That's the nature of Quran. So brothers of Yusuf envied him. they felt that their father favored Yusuf and his other brother over them. They plotted to get rid of him. That shaitan plot. Shaitan was able to sell them his plot to get rid of Yusuf. And unfortunately, they bought it. They threw him in the depth of the well. Allah saved him. He became someone with a lot of power. First of all, he find himself in a house of someone who is very powerful or influential, and then was thrown in jail, and then was saved again, and became someone with a lot of power. The question is, we're going to see what he did with that power. Because Yusuf alayhi salam was tested, very difficult tests, and Yaqub and his father. Very difficult tests, and they passed them successfully, and these are lessons for us because we go through similar tests in our life. So Quran starts by saying, this is Kitabul Mubin, Tilka Ayatul Kitabul Mubin. It makes things clear so that you can understand. And then it is Ayatun Lis-Sa'ilin. There are signs for those who are seeking. لقد كان في يوسف وإخوته آيات للسائلين. So for those who are seeking guidance. Now, what triggered the whole story? What triggered this chain reaction sequence of events? It is the impression that Yusuf's brothers had that their father unfairly favors Yusuf over them, Yusuf and his other son over them. So it is an impression. What's the message here? Before even we get into the whole story, the message is for every father to be very careful, because that impression triggered all of this. That impression, yes, it is satanic, shaitan, planted in their minds. Maybe it's not true, only Allah knows is true, or it is just an impression. More than likely it is an impression. Yaqub is Nabi, so more than likely it is an impression that shaitan planted in their heads, and he built on it all his plan and all his conspiracy. After they accepted that thought that their father favors Yusuf over them. So the lesson for every father to be extremely careful not to fall in that trap. Make sure that you never favor any of your children. I know from experience, all of us, some of our children may be better than others. Better meaning what? Better in their school, better in they're more obedient, etc. Might be. So you may be more pleased with one child over the other. But that's not an excuse for you to favor the child. You need to distinguish between promoting good behavior and favoring a child over the other. There's a big difference between the two. So you may like that behavior and reward it. Something that we fail to do sometimes is to reward good behavior. We wait until there is a bad behavior and punish it. But we forget to reward good behavior. That's what people do in companies. They reward good behavior with a promotion and bonus, etc. So reward good behavior, penalize bad behavior, but that should never translate into favoring a child over the other. You love them equally, you hate or you don't like the behavior of one child, not the child himself, and you try to correct it. So keep that in mind. There is a very fine line between I don't like the behavior of a child and they want to correct it, or I don't like the child. If they start feeling that way, that become very bad. Make sure that you are always fair and don't allow, because that's a very, very favorite entry of shaitan. That door, shaitan can to one of your children say your parents favor your brother or your sister over you. That creates a sequence very similar to what happened to Yusuf, even if it does not reach the level that they throw him in the depth of the well, but it can create a lot of animosity in the family and a lot of problems. So that's what triggered the whole thing. So what instigated it? What instigated this chain reaction is Shaitan took advantage of a situation and planted that idea in the minds of Yusuf's brothers. Pay attention to the tricks of Shaitan. Be careful. Never underestimate. He's very smart, very tricky. And don't underestimate the power of a thought that you put in your mind, good or bad. It may lead to a lot of consequences. This is just one thought that our Father favors Yusuf over us. You see what sequence of events it led. So how Shaitan tricked them here? Rather than telling them that Yusuf is better than you, rather than them realizing the reality. What is the truth here? Yusuf is a better child than them. Shaitan twists that. No, it's not he's better. Your father is favoring him, even though you are better than him. Major difference. The first idea will lead you where? If you feel that your brother or your sister is better than you, you try to be also as good as they are. So that puts you in the right direction. But if Shaitan gets you to feel, no, you are good as them or better than your brother or your sister, but the problem is with parents. They're favoring. That will lead you in a very different route. You can see how tricky. It's yes, Yusuf is better than them. That should have motivated them to be also better people, like him. No. Shaitan took them in the other route, which is the route of envy. And what else? إِنَّ أَبَانَ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Can you believe it? Shaitan comes to people and tell them, Yaqub, who is a prophet, is someone who's out of his mind. And they took it. They took the bait. إِنَّ أَبَانَ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Nobody told them, how come? Your father is Nabi, Yaqub. What are you talking about? No. Shaitan was able to sell them these two things. And that was the foundation of his plot. So your father is out of his mind. That's why he favors your brother. And then what's the solution? Get rid of Yusuf. How Shaitan can play with people to this point. And we talked about, and we'll talk about today, inshallah, how we can avoid that. So, and then they moved directly to talk about how to get rid of Yusuf. Shaitan made them skip the question of whether this is right or wrong. Before we get to the how, is it halal or haram? Is it right or wrong? And if it is wrong, we shouldn't even get to the question of how. It should stop right there. So when you are alert and awake and you ask the right questions, you make those stops, you foil the conspiracy of Shaitan. If one of them asked that question, wait a minute, you're talking about how to do it to get rid of him? There was the question before that, whether this is right or wrong, whether this is halal or haram. And if it is haram, then there is no point even in discussing how to do it. So make sure you always are awake and you always ask, 1, is this right or wrong? 2, even if it is right, is it the best approach or there is a better approach? We'll see how Yusuf at the end uses his wisdom to use the best approach, even though he had other options, but he used the best option. So right or wrong, that will draw the limits, and then within the right, is it the best? Choose the easiest, as Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to do. Whenever he was made to choose about 2 things, he chose the easiest, the path of least resistance. Unless it is haram, then he will avoid it. But within the halal, he used the easiest. ما خير بين أمرين إلا اختار أيسرهما صلى الله عليه وسلم. And once you pass this, then you get into the how, and that also has to be right, because ends do not justify the means. You determine that the act is halal. You determine that that's the best course of action. Now you're going to the execution, how to do it. If the goal is right, it doesn't mean that you can use any means. You still have the means have to be also right. Imagine brothers of Yusuf brother asked these questions, the whole conspiracy of shaitan would have been foiled, would have been killed from the beginning. So make sure that you always check any idea that shaitan can plant in your head, and don't allow him to put you in that slippery road that tells you, you have to. You have no choice. No. A lot of time when people say, I have to, they actually don't. And when they say, I have no options or I have no choice, in reality they do. It is shaitan who closes the other door to put you in the slippery road. So always check whether what you're doing is needed or not, right or not, best option or not, and consider other options if they are available. So Yusuf alayhi salam was thrown in the depth of the well. What saved him? Now, first of all, Yaqub alayhi salam never lost hope. They came to him and said Yusuf was eaten by the wolf. Allahu musta'anu ala ma tasifun. He never said, I'm doomed or this is hopeless case. Even after he lost his other son, Asa Rabbi an ya'tini bihim jami'an. He's still hoping that they will come back. So that's a great lesson. Never lose hope. There is nothing that is too difficult for Allah to do. And Allah promises, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Now what saved Yusuf from the depth of the well and then from jail? From the depth of the well is a caravan passing by. They needed water. So they went to get water and Yusuf came up. Just imagine that caravan, couple days, if its passage was delayed couple days, he's gone. He's dead. So Allah made, you can see how, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ جُنُودَ رَبِّكَ لَهُ. You never know how Allah will make a way out of you, for you. It's something, caravan passes by, needing water, and Yusuf came up. So he was saved. Now what saved him from jail? Things that do not even come to your mind. Yusuf alayhi salam, from jail to become top leader of that nation, was saved by two dreams. Imagine you are in jail in a hopeless situation, and someone sees a dream in the jail, and Yusuf explained to him, and that person was freed from jail. And then the king sees a dream, and that person will remember that Yusuf is capable of explaining that dream, and that's what brought him from that. So two things that do not come. You are in a hopeless situation. Two other people, they see dream in their lives, in their sleep, and that will be the reason for Allah to save you. So Allah, مَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. So the person in jail saw a dream. Why they came to Yusuf alayhi salam? قالوا إِنَّ نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. They saw special behavior, exemplary behavior. And there is a lesson for us here, that the Muslim believer, the one who's in a mission, you should show exemplary behavior in all contexts, including in jail. Everywhere, still have to show that exemplary behavior. That's what attracted those two individuals to come to Yusuf alayhi salam and ask him to interpret their dreams. Now Yusuf alayhi salam took advantage of the opportunity and they do da'wah. How did he do da'wah? He explained to them from the beginning that this is anything that you see in me special, it's from Allah. That's the magic equation of da'wah. Exemplary behavior and credit everything to Allah. Exemplary behavior that attract people to you, and then you credit everything to your deen and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what Yusuf alayhi salam did. That's the most efficient way of da'wah. He explained the dreams, and he was, subhanallah, so decent. Yusuf alayhi salam, two dreams. I'm going to read the translation. So two people came to him. I dreamed that I was carrying bread on my head. One was carrying bread on his head, and the other one was crucified. Meaning, bottom line is one so good dream and one so very bad dream. So Yusuf alayhi salam, after doing da'wah, after explaining to them that anything good is from Allah and from my deen, and then he told them that he didn't say you are doomed and you're going to be saved. He said one of you will be saved and one of you is going to be crucified. That shows you how decent the prophets who are our role models are, and that will tell you how far those people who project rudeness as part of taqwa or relate to taqwa has nothing to do. So decent that two people came, someone saw a good dream and someone saw a bad dream. Yusuf alayhi salam will tell one of you is going to be saved, but the other one he's not. He will be executed or will be crucified. قال أما أحدكم فيسقي ربه خمرا وأما الآخر فيصلب فتأكل الطير من رأسه قضي الأمر الذي فيه تستفتيان. Before that, we talked about the test that Yusuf went through, which is to be seduced by the woman who is his master. Very difficult test. And he was able to pass successfully. Not only that, and when they forced him to choose between committing haram and being thrown in jail, he said, قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه. Very clear choices. You put haram here, zina, being thrown in jail. He said, jail is my choice, or jail is better for me than doing something that is haram. قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه. Now, this thing that is very consistent throughout the surah of Yusuf alayhi salam, two things. One is that Yusuf was told, إِنَّ نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ in jail. And later on, when he was in charge of the whole nation, he was also told, إِنَّ نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Consistency. Power did not make him become arrogant. He remained to be the same person. You don't see that frequently nowadays. Anybody who become rich or has power, immediately they become arrogant. So, إِنَّ نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ in jail, we see you as a good person. And his brother, when they came, they didn't know him yet. They told him, إِنَّ نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Consistency. The other thing that is consistent throughout the surah is the fact that everything is credited to Allah. From the time Yusuf came to his father and told him about his dream, he saw 11 stars and the sun and the moon making sujood to him. Yaqub told him, this is from the blessing of Allah. كذلك يتم الله نعمته عليك وعلى آل يعقوب كما تم على أبويك من قبل إبراهيم وإسحاق. Until the end of the surah, when his parents came to him, and very happy conclusion, Yusuf again says, credit this to Allah and acknowledge. So gratitude was a very consistent theme in the surah of Yusuf. Every time reminded that these things are from Allah. Even when he was talking to the people in jail, when he was making da'wah, هذا من فضل الله علينا وعلى الناس ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون. This is what you see is from the blessing. We are believers because of the blessing and favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can see it from the very beginning of the surah until the end. رَبِّ قَدْ آتَيْتَنِي مِنَ الْمُلْكِ وَعَلَّمْتَنِي مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. Until the end of the surah, there is a theme. One, consistency of being muhsineen, remaining consistent in difficult time and in a time of ease. And then the other is gratitude from the father and the son. Everything is credited to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything good that happened in the way. وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. Dear respected brother and sister in Islam, it seems that we're going to need another Jummah inshallah to finish this surah. The second part has to do with how Yusuf behaved after he met with his brothers. And you'll see the big difference between the right approach and the wrong approach. And he has so much power. He could have done anything. Anybody or most people, majority of people, will think in terms of revenge, confrontation, etc. Totally never went in a very different path. He was focusing on healing, not making things worse. And he came up with a very wise ways on to deal with his brothers, to push things in the right direction, not in the wrong direction. Because these things could have gone in a very bad direction and could have stayed for generations. Imagine Yusuf thought about revenge. Their children forever, children, grandchildren, will always remain animosity between those families, will not end. But that's not the way he closed it right there by in his patience and his wisdom and how he allowed and encouraged his brothers to repent rather than pushing them further in the wrong direction. Shaitan was pushing them in the wrong direction. Yusuf alayhi salam did exactly the opposite. He opened the door for them to come back to their senses and to heal that problem, and he did it in an extremely wise way and efficient way. Inshallah, we'll come back to it next time. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا وتوفنا وانت راض عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها خير أيامنا يوم نلقاك. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا وجميع موتى المسلمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. صلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وأقم الصلاة.